Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and before I show you the card we're going to create today, in case you missed it, I shared these adorable, I only wish I would have thought of this sooner, these adorable Taco Fiesta guac parents. I thought that was so cute. I actually used our, where is it here? This is fine tip glue pen. And this actually, when you let it dry, and I'll show you that on this one as well, this one I goofed, when you put it on there and you let it dry, it will actually form like a dome. So it's like a 3D. I don't know if you can actually really see that it is, but it's super, super cute. I thought this was just absolutely an adorable card. And then another fun one I created. Now this one, this is the problem. So when you use either fine tip glue pen, if maybe you still may have some of this crystal effects that we used to carry, which was super cool, or any other like a glossy accent type of a product, you have to make sure that you give it enough time to sit. Mine was coming out super goopy, and what I did is I took a pin and I kind of was trying to smooth it around, but I ended up making it a little bit weirder than I intended. So this one has definitely something looks like it's wrong with this pepper. That's all I'm going to say, but I thought it was still a really, really fun card to create. This one has the little Fiesta banners on the inside, and even went so far as to cut out a couple limes. So these are some super cute cards in case you need some other inspiration. You can find the Taco Fiesta stamp set in the spring mini catalog, but I'm going to tell you, I think the pictures in here do not do this justice whatsoever. They're cute, don't get me wrong, but they're not like bright festive, which is all that I've seen, and they are so, so adorable. Shout out to Erica Serwin. This was her $1 million stamp set. I think this is so cute. I really hope it carries over. A lot of times photopolymer, specifically $1 million stamp sets, don't. So if I were you, I'd get this sooner than later, because Cinco de Mayo, by the time that comes, this could very well be sold out. You just never know. Now on that note, also Celebration does run for the end of the month. So we have until February 28th for Celebration. So for every $50 or $100 you spend, you get some freebies. So there's lots of information on my blog and on my online store, rachthestamper.stampinup.net, in case you need more information. So the card we're going to create today, I thought was super fun. I kind of just layered a whole bunch of different stuff together. But this is actually, I guess you would call it like a half a barn door fold card, maybe. But basically this portion here is actually the top part of the card. So you're going to start off with a full piece of cardstock. So this is 5.5 by 8.5, score at 4 1/4. So we are going to need this still. I don't have any of the stuff set up for that, but I'm going to show you. We're going to be using some scrappy pieces. I have some white, I have some black, a little bit of Mango Melody. This is actually a little bit shorter than the one that I used, so I'm actually going to just trim it down a little bit so you can see that. But to begin, put all the little scrap pieces on the side. What you're going to do is you're going to need to cut this, okay? We're going to go down to 2.5. So let me grab my trimmer, and I'm going to show you what you're going to do. So the easiest way to do this is to take the top of your card. You're going to line it up at 2.5, and you're going to cut either from the top to your score line, or you can start at the score line if you feel a little bit more nervous. So what I have done, and I'm going to get this down to 4 1/4, and I'm going to show you once I lift it. What I have done is I actually took, you can do this with a piece of paper, but this is actually a piece of tear and tape without me removing the backing. And I put it here to make it a little bit easier for me to visualize these measurements. So right here is 4 1/4. So I cut from here all the way up. And you're going to see when I open it that now we have 2 flaps. Now this piece you're going to want to keep, because this is the bottom of our card. And I just realized I picked a different color, but that's just going to be the way it is. It's going to be just fine. So this is actually Sweet Sorbet. For this one, I used Poppy Parade, so you can use either. Now what we need to do is we're going to cut this portion off. So you can either do it with your trimmer, or if you want, you could do it with scissors. But sometimes it's kind of nicer to start down here at the end where you're not really in the groove of cutting, and just cut that portion off, okay? If you end up with like a little bit of a divot here, I'll show you what else you can do. You can just take your bone folder and kind of smooth it out. So this little nippy spot here, I'm just going to take my snips and just take that little edging off. But if you get a little bit of a groove, just take your bone folder, just kind of reflatten it back out. It's going to be fine. Nobody's going to notice. This piece, like I said, we are going to end up trimming anyway, so I'll show you what we're going to do with that. So this is our base card. I do need one other thing, which I neglected to grab. I do need a piece of white for the inside, and this is going to measure 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so that's our inside card panel. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. So this piece, and where's my little piece that I cut here? So we have 2.5 inches. This is going to just be the same. So it's about 2.5 inches. I really only need about, it's not even an inch. I'm going to say 3/4 of an inch. So this is just a little scrap panel for our nachos, which are right up top here. And then we just need, same thing, just a teeny little strip. So this should be 2.5. Yep. And I'm just going to, for sake of consistency, because I have some room to line it up, I'm going to make this piece an inch, even though we don't really need it. It's basically just to fill space. So I made it just a little bit bigger, just in case. So we have 2 little die cutting pieces that we're going to need to do. So just give me 1 second. We're going to use this and this. I can get rid of these. I do need to stamp. And as a matter of fact, before I get my die cutting, I'm going to stamp this. That way it will have time to dry. So I'm going to stamp the cactus and little Mr. Hot Pepper there. And I'm going to stamp them in, I'm going to do Memento black ink, just because I'm going to use the blends. That way I can get it to work. So I'm just going to, and I'll show you one other thing in a minute we'll get to. So there's that. That way these have a little bit of time to dry before we color. There's that. Set those on the side. And since I did change inks, I want to make sure that I change my ink color here. So you can use whatever color you like. If you want it a little bit darker, you still could go with the Poppy Parade, but I'm going to do with Sweet Sorbet since that's the card color I picked, or the card stock I picked. And all I did was just kind of randomly, let me grab my other scrap here in case I go over the edge. I just kind of randomly change positions for these peppers, just like so. Doesn't really matter if you get the middle very well because it's not going to be seen. And obviously you want to probably try to choose a block that's a little bit more accurately sized. So just in case you don't end up goofing up your card. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe this off now just to be on the safe side. One other part I'm going to do. So there is our base. So on this, I did the little guy on the inside. And what I'm going to show you is I have a little hat on a piece of masking paper. So I'm going to grab a small block and I'm going to stamp this, close that for a second, in soft suede, kind of down here at the bottom. Just eyeball, we'll say like that. That looks good enough. I'm going to give that just a second to dry. We are going to color it, so it's not really super imperative. I'm going to take my mask and put this. So whenever you're doing anything that involves masking, you want to remember the thing that you want to be in the front, you want to stamp first. So I'm going to stamp this again. Okay. And this mask is used many times. Then you have your little hat on your hot pepper. So I'm just going to stick this back inside. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and do my lime across the top, which I did just straight across there. I did this in Parakeet Party. If you still happen to have lemon lime sorbet, that would be a nice one to use as well. I did show this in the last video, but I'm going to show it to you again just in case. So I just re-inked all my inkers, which is why they have all those spots. So when you've let it sit for a while, the other thing you can do is just take your spoon and kind of press your ink in to your pad. But also, I'm going to just leave that one side there. So I have one smooth side, so I won't get heavy and then lighter inked spots with the limes. And then instead of going straight across, I'm going to do something different. We'll just do these on a diagonal, just for a little fun, just for funsies. And you can certainly rotate your paper, but this stamp is so small, doesn't really matter if you don't. All right, so that's it. The only other thing we need to do are our nachos. So I'm just gonna grab my black again, put this over here. We have our little orange piece, and grab my little chips. I do have a lot of these little blocks. I think they come in handy because I think sometimes you don't realize how much stuff you have. So what I did was, just to try to kind of vary it, I changed the direction, oops, of my chips so they wouldn't all be in the same area at the same time. And we can put like a little half chip, part of a chip, because you're not coloring these in, so it's just really for decoration. That's good. I don't want to get too crazy. All right, so that is pretty much all the stamping. The only other thing we're going to do is our sentiment. Set this on the side. I need one other little scrap. Now, I did combine a couple things in case you noticed here. Let me show you what I mean. Because we don't really have that specific sentiment. So what I did was I just pieced it together, which I kind of like doing because it's almost like you can make it say whatever you want. So I have you spice up my life and your birthday. So just grab a smaller block. Oh, I didn't even need that one. And oops, one more time, need my black. I have another little scrap here. So I'm just gonna do guacamole at your birthday because we don't need the top. We just need the your birthday. And then spice up. So we're gonna let those dry because those are gonna need to be snipped, and I definitely don't wanna mess them up. I'm gonna set them on the side. All right. So now, while this is all finally drying up, I'm going to do the die cutting, and then we'll come back and do our coloring with the Stampin' blends, and then we'll finish our card. All right, so let me just move a couple things out of the way. And the one thing about these, they would be so awesome if they had dies, but they don't, so c'est la vie. So the only thing we really need to die cut is this top portion here. Okay, so this is the basic borders die. I thought this one kind of looked a little bit like a Mexican blanket, so we're going to do that. For this piece here, I already actually went ahead and used the deckled rectangles. I believe it is the fifth, no, maybe the two, no, that was right. I was wrong. The third largest. Yep. So this one we're just going to trim a little bit, but we'll deal with that in a moment. So that one's already done. The only thing we have to do is the basic borders die. So the simplest way to do this is I'm going to just grab a little piece of washi. Doesn't need to be big, and I usually use my washi many times before I get rid of it. And I kind of eyeballed it so it was centered. So we have the 3 peaks and they're running up at the edge. And just like that. So I'm just going to run this through my die cut machine. That's all. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I was going to bring it over, but since we only had that one little piece to do, then one thing you want to do, I'm going to put these away so I don't lose them. This is a really versatile set too. The clouds, I think I've used all of these except this little kind of scalloped edge. That was the only one. If you have run your washi through a die cutting machine, one thing you want to be careful is if you just pull it, it'll rip. So you want to kind of make sure that you're pulling straight down on itself and slowly. Washi isn't very sticky, but it's stickier than you think it is when you're trying to get it off of something. So always take your time. Worst case scenario, if you haven't pulled it carefully, the other thing you can do is you could actually put it on your skin just to take a teeny bit of the tackiness off and then go from there. So we have all these pieces. The only other thing we're going to do in the meantime is just really quickly color these. So I used light real red and dark poppy parade for the pepper. Then I have granny apple green and no, I used dark mossy meadow for my cacti. So I kind of just went in with my granny apple. Oh, you know what? That's a little, forgot I needed the light one too. So there's your dark. You're going to go in with your light. Just kind of blend it out. We are going to fussy cut this, so if we go outside the lines, it's no big deal. I think I need a new set of these after last night. They probably got a pretty good workout. I'm going to bring just a little bit more shading just to one side. And then I kind of brought a little bit more at the top. I don't really know why, but that's just what I did. Then I took my dark mossy meadow and I kind of tried to give the illusion of like the dots. So where the prickle spots were, but also just to give a little bit more visual interest. It wasn't really anything specific. I'll show you what I mean. You can also, if you want to, kind of give the like little checks. I feel like they give that somewhat of a look. And then I'm going to come just back with my light one more time and just lightly soften up the bottom here. All right, so there's that one. And then the other thing is my red. So I'm going to go with, this is the light real red. And then I have the dark poppy for the outside. Kind of bring a little bit underneath of here. And just a little bit more of the light real red to kind of blend them together. And then the only other thing I'm going to do is just add in the top. Oh, and one thing I realized I forgot to do was stamp the mustache. So I'm going to give those just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one in the meantime. So two things you can do. You can use clear heat embossing on these, which is super fun. That's where you actually heat up the powder after you stamp it with Versamark. You attach the powder, you heat it, and it gives a really fun shine. You could use Crystal Effects if you still have that, some sort of glossy accents. In a pinch, you can also use glue. Any of those type of products, you're definitely going to need to let it sit and fully dry before you touch it, because you don't want to end up with like a thumbprint in it, because that would really be sad. The other thing you can do, which is a hack that I've seen recently, which is very genius, and I can't believe it took us crafters this long to think of this, is you can actually coat it with packing tape. So you would just get a piece of packing tape and put on top of it, and then either trim it or die cut it, depending on what you're doing. And it gives the illusion like you used an embossing powder or some sort of a shiny finish to it, which is genius. If you're in a pinch and maybe you don't have all the supplies yet to make it, that's a pretty fabulous tip if you ask me. Okay, I'm going to let this dry just one more second. I'm going to show you one other thing. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cut these up. So we got Spice Up is really what we wanted. So I'm going to make sure I trim really close to the spice. The Up, I'm going to give a little bit more room to. Here's the spice. I'll put those over there so I don't lose it. Here's the P. And then your birthday is pretty small. So if this isn't something that you're into, you totally can use a different sentiment, but I thought it was pretty cool. And we're going to trim here. I did that as well. And I'm just trimming again to the word. So I trimmed them and set them on the side so I'll have them when I'm ready. Okay, so I just want to show you a couple other things. We are almost finished. I am going to take my real red marker and I'm just going to go over this just to get rid of those white edges. Since we trimmed this, not really very much. I'm not going to worry about it so much on the cacti. All right, and now we're going to put this together. So we have our inside panel, so that one we can just go ahead and glue in. And I'm not going to put an inside sentiment, but I am, and I totally forgot about that. I wanted to color this in. Now, since I have 2 layers here, it's not going to really be so much of a problem, but you really do want to color this prior to putting it in, just in case you get a little bit of bleeding. It'll bleed through and it won't bleed through to your base layer, but for this one, it should be okay. Okay. And then with this one, instead of using a blend, I'm actually going to just grab a blender pen and my soft suede ink pad and just kind of fill this in. I'm not going to re-ink at any point because I want the rest of it to be lighter. Okay, so there's that. I missed one little spot here. Okay. And I don't remember if I put, yep, a little face on the inside. I knew I probably should have. Take all my little words. Okay, so let's grab my mustache and we'll do the little surprise face. So I have the mustache and this is the surprise face. There we go. So same thing, one final time. I'm going to do the surprise face first. Same thing again, just using Memento ink. The one thing with this, because it's so tiny, you want to make sure you really are delicate when you ink it so it doesn't get over inked. Adorable. And let me just give this a crease. Okay. And then I'm going to do my mustache. Super cute. Super, super cute. Oh, okay, so what I was saying is, if you're going to do anything and you're going to go through with doing your glossy accents, you don't want to do it yet, okay? So one other thing I'm going to grab is my Wink of Stella, just to give a little bit of a teeny shimmer to the cactus. Okay. Then we're going to put all of our front pieces together. Like that. Now remember, I said this one I cut just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is glue all this together and then I'll just trim off of the bottom here, okay? So I'm going to put a teeny bit of glue, not a lot, just a really little bit because you don't want it to come squishing out. I'm going to attach my black panel, just kind of eyeball where I want it. Looks pretty good. Same thing, I'm going to just put just a little bit of glue, attach my nachos. And, you know, just thinking about it, this could be a little bit that maybe you're like, I'm not that into it. But maybe you have a really special friend that you would want to send this to. That is somebody that, you know, is always there for you. We're going to just adhere this. You know, you can always, I just want to check this really quickly. Because I have a little teeny bit of overage here. So I'm just going to take my snips and grab that little end there. So maybe you have somebody that really is always there for you, and this is the person you want to send this to. Okay. All right, so we have that, and then somewhere along the way here, I've lost some of my words. So you have your, I'm going to put this cactus down here at the bottom. I'm just going to glue this on regularly. I'm not going to put any dimensionals or anything on there. Now, I noticed that I did not do such a great job of cutting. So you can see right in here, I have like a little white spot. So I'm actually going to grab my light Sweet Sorbet marker. I'm actually going to use the bullet tip. And I'm going to just kind of color that part in. Look at that, just vanish, just like that. So you can always go back and just very, very gently fiddle with stuff if you have to. So here's another piece. I have birthday. I have spice. The only thing I can't find is up. So let's see. Just going to put a teeny. That one was a really little one too. Well, if I somehow misplaced it, I'm not going to make you watch me stamp it again. I will just fix it afterwards. Make sure when we're putting this on that we don't go below this spot where we're going to cut off. Just a little bit of glue. Grab my up. It's got to be around here somewhere. I'll give it one real quick. I have my pepper. Oh, it's on the floor. See? Now, that's the funny thing. I can't see something across the room if I'm missing it, but I certainly can find a little tiny piece of up on the carpet. Oops. All right, and then I'm going to put him. Now, him, I think I am going to put up on a dimensional. So I'm just going to grab 2 and 2. And what I'm going to do is I will show you how to do it with the glue. And then that's where we'll end because it's going to have to sit. Oops. All right, so we have that. My little mini dimensionals. So all this is assembled. Only thing we have to do is just sit it right on here, but we want to take this off. Okay, I am a little bit close here with my cacti. So I'm going to try, I want to see. Where's my pencil? And I usually do that just so I can kind of see right where that edge is. Oh, I must have just barely made it. Man, when you're good, you're good. Okay. So then same, we're going to just put this here. Now, you only want to put glue down here because obviously if you put glue on the whole thing, it's going to glue your complete card shut. And we don't want to do that. So we're just going to put glue, a good amount of glue, but we're going to go with right in this section. And the other thing I like to do is when I set it, just give it a little shift to kind of spread that glue out a little bit. And there you have your finished card. So I know that was definitely a little bit in the steps, but I think it is so cute. So one other thing you're going to do, and I'll put this here because after this, I'm not going to move this. So if you're going to do your, let's say we're going to do like our fine tip glue pen. And I'm actually going to change tops because one of them is clogged and I'm actually getting ready to soak it. So I'm going to change tops. Now, one other thing I've done before too, if you're drying stuff, you can put a drop of really, really light ink color in there. That way you can see it, but then it won't dry clear. So this one is completely clear. So this comes out here at the tip. So what you're going to do is you're going to just take your, oh, they'll make a fibber out of me. Is this not the one that works? This is probably the one that's gooped up. And now the other one is gooped up too. That is one thing about this. Hold on, I still have one more. It does get, if you let it sit and you don't keep your cap in here, it does get a little bit more difficult to use. Let me see. This one might not have the, this one was a brand new one I got. It didn't have the top off. So try to make sure that you really keep your, I'm just going to go over to this one. Keep your cap clean. Now, for those of us that can't see to get it in the hole, you might have to put your glasses on, but so what you're going to do is you're going to give it a squeeze. And look at that. After all that, I did end up using the one that had the purple dye in it by accident. Well, so you're going to give it a squeeze. I'm going to lift this up so you can see. So it's opaque. Okay, and it will remain opaque until it's dry. So if you come back and you check on this project, so I'm just lightly squeezing as I kind of spread it around. If you check on this project and it's still not clear, it is not dry. So don't touch it or move it or anything like that. You would just want to let it sit. Because once it is finished, it will be completely dry and shiny like this. So as you can see, this has like a haze to it. That means it is not, just try to get that bubble out, dry. So this has to sit for at least 30 minutes. Excuse me, just to fully dry. So I hope you all have enjoyed this today. Thank you so much for taking, I'm just putting the cap back in this before I forget. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Oh, and before I go into a coughing fit, I'm going to end this. If you have any questions about this, you can check out my blog, Rachthestamper.com, and you can buy all these supplies in my online store. Excuse me, Rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.